All right, folks, back at it again. Once again, it's Joshua. We have Boz here, ready to talk some boxing, some of the great action that took place over the weekend. And hello there, Boz. How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. Just a little tired. I came home from my holiday like
Oh
two
yeah,
nights ago. In the middle of the night. So
oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
still,
That
still,
jet lag. That jet
yeah,
lag is no joke, huh?
still recovering from that. Yeah,
Okay, good to go. Yeah, yeah. I know how that jet lag is. I've been here, so I feel good now. I have been battling a little sickness, but back in the mix. Finally got my voice back, ready to
that's
go.
good. Yeah,
So cool,
cool.
cool. Well, there's a lot of good boxing action as always. I feel like this year has had a pretty decent trajectory. We've had a lot of pretty solid fights just over the course of this first half of the year. As a matter of fact, I think it was the Zone. They were showing a number of the different highlights from what's taking place thus far, or it might have been Showtime. I can't remember, kind of blending the two. But yeah, we've got a lot of good matchups. We've had some undisputed matchups. We'll potentially have another undisputed matchup at some point. But that being said, I think it's a pretty solid year thus far in the sport. So looking forward
Yeah,
to what happens here in this second half.
yeah. Especially compared to last year.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy last 2 years, prior to this,
Yeah,
as a matter of fact. But yeah,
yeah,
yeah, one of those things though. So I guess we can start with the big UK fight, which was an event that was a fun event, and I thought it was a pretty solid card. It was headlined by Derek Chisora, who took
yeah,
on Kubrat Pulev, who is Bulgarian, I believe it is, and
yeah.
it ended
Mm,
up being a pretty solid action fight. Both of
mhm.
them were probably around the same level at this particular point. Kubrat is 41, I believe, and I know Chisora is 38. He still has a little bit of something in the tank. Both of them actually, they went the entire distance, but it was a fight with some different pockets of pretty sustained action at times. And I thought it was a little bit of I thought it was a bit of excitement in it as well. Took place in the O2 Arena, and of course,
Mm.
Chisora ended up winning a split decision. I felt that Chisora probably deserved to win. Kubrat Pulev, he did put up a fight in some capacity, but I just feel that Chisora, he landed in a number of big punches that seemed to really rock Pulev at times. Now Pulev was able to land some pretty good stuff himself, but I just felt like
Yeah,
Chisora probably did a little bit more and was on the right end of the decision this time because he's lost a number of close ones. But this time, I think the judges got it right. If someone would have had it going the other way, I mean, I think an
yeah.
argument could be made in some capacity. But
Mm.
generally, what did you think of it overall?
It was very close, I thought, and it's like Chisora was the one who like more often landed the bigger punches and like those wide looping punches of his, and even though he didn't really hurt Pulev, I think, but he managed to cut him. But also Pulev had a few good. I think in round 8 he kind of hurt Chisora. I think it was I don't doesn't matter right or left doesn't matter. But anyway,
Hmm.
it was very close. I'm not really sure if I would say that Chisora is necessarily like the winner for sure, but
Yeah,
I thought it could have gone either way. I mean, I think Pulev, sorry, kind of he fought smarter than Chisora, but he didn't really manage to land enough, maybe to really
yeah.
to win the fight. If he had, then I think he would have won. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I think Chisora did kind of pull him into a Chisora style fight where
yeah,
there were some exchanges and Chisora was able to get off because Chisora sometimes likes to lay back against the ropes and let a
yeah,
fighter come forward so he can just start winging in a sense. And he had a little bit of success there. But yeah, I agree with you. Just from an overall standpoint, I think yeah. nothing was like super definitive as far as just an outright winner in that capacity. But certainly it was a good fight, and I thought the two matched up well. So they're 1-1 now. Pulev had beat Chisora some years back. So I know that Chisora mentioned after the fight that he has a couple of fights left in him. So it could be a potential we see a third one. But he also called out Deontay Wilder, the Bronze Bomber. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think that's very very realistic of him to do that. Even though Wilder hasn't fought since his last loss, but still he's a lot younger, fresher. I mean, fresher, and you know what else he can punch, of course.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think it would take him many rounds to dispose of Chisora. So 5, maybe 5, 6 stops, I would say.
Yeah. I'm with you there. Hey, good morning, Facebook user. Good morning. Hello, 86 Baz. Happy Sunday. Hello there. I believe that is my mom. So thank you for joining, Mom.
Oh yeah,
appreciate you
right.
checking in.
the hugging smiley. That's right.
Appreciate you checking in. Loyal and dedicated fan there. Appreciate
Joshua's mother.
Loyal and dedicated fan, but yeah, you're right about that. I think that Wilder, of course, is a very dangerous puncher, and for Chisora, who's prone to take some shots that might not bode too well for him. So I don't know if that was going to happen or not. And there's still a question, I guess, as to when and if Wilder is going to fight again, with whom that'll be. I guess time will tell. It'll just be interesting right now. I haven't heard much traction as far as when Wilder expects to get back in the ring, and if he expects to get back in the ring, and any potential opponents. A lot of the guys up top. I mean, there's some guys out there who may make it pretty interesting, but I just don't know who is there that he would want to fight or it would make sense from PBC standpoint. But we'll see. Adam Kanowski is going to be fighting soon. Maybe he's one of those type of comeback type opponents for Wilder.
Well, yeah. When it comes to Chisora, I think one fight that would make more sense is a third fight with White, because White is now also no longer obviously at his best, and first fight I thought that Chisora should have won that one. I had him winning 115, 113, I believe. So and the second one was also close until the knockout. It was competitive.
That was a solid knockout that White got on him. I think it was like the 11th round, right?
Yeah, 11th round. That's right. So it's only, I think, the only second time that Chisora has really been knocked out. First one was against Haig, of course, and that was like 2013 or something. So he's a tough guy, of course, but I don't like the way he fights now. As you say, he just lays on the ropes most of the time and doesn't want to. That shows that he's not in shape really to really fight 12 rounds and against. Well, Pulev is not a top fighter maybe now, but he used to be. Anyway. He's in no shape to fight the best. Simply.
You're right in that regard. There was some heavy breathing from Chisora. I think that's definitely one of those things that conditioning has to work on. He was able to go to full 12, but you could tell he was visibly tired, of course. And Pulev looked to be fairly fresh, but he did bust up Pulev's face. That could tell some stories in some sense, but it was still fairly close.
Yeah, just he was a really hard puncher. It's just like if he really happens to catch you, he may knock you out, but not usually. He's like because he's not sharp enough. His punches are not sharp.
Yeah,
Just like thudding, punches, however you call them.
yeah. You're right in that regard. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what's going down right there for, I guess, Chisora, the heavyweight division. I'm sure there's going to be some more topics come up as far as the heavyweights. We are getting closer to Usyk Joshua Part Two,
well, yeah,
and I'm sure that one's going to have a lot of buzz and fanfare right around that time when it's about to
yeah.
happen. And I know they're on their promotional tour right now, and yeah, this one should be a pretty interesting one. Joshua seems to be set on rightening the ship or evening the score, so it'll be interesting to see how he comes out this time, because I think that Usyk as well will be better than he was this last time around, having faced Joshua.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so the problem with Joshua is that he's so big, so that's why sometimes it's hard for him. As I said already, I think hard for him to really avoid those punches coming from Usyk, and he's not a really good defensive fighter. That's basically the problem.
Yeah.
So he's used to just destroying his opponents and picking them, apart. And so when he faces someone he cannot do that too, then he usually loses or struggles.
Yeah, yeah. That has been the case thus far. He rebounded fairly well against Andrew Ruiz. I think we
Yeah, but
discussed that before.
that
Yeah,
was just cowardly fighting, I would call it.
yeah.
Just
Certainly could have been some anomalies there in terms of that, and I don't think that tells the full story. But yeah, it should certainly be pretty interesting to see how he goes about this, because Usyk for sure is not the type that is going to back down from the challenge. And you can just tell just based on when they're standing there in front of each other. Usyk doesn't seem to have the slightest bit of concern as it relates to what Joshua.
I thought he looked bored on that last press conference. He was having that head pulled over his
Yeah.
head. It was just like, like how much longer do I have to be here? And Joshua was doing his best to look intimidating. He was like,
Yeah. The intimidating
like
factor.
Schwarzenegger stare.
Yeah. I don't think that's not gonna get into Usyk's head. So that was pretty interesting. I thought that's funny, but yeah, we'll see how that thing turns out for them. Now, on this same card that took place over there in London at the O2 Arena, the co-feature was actually Israel Madrimov, who I think is a pretty solid middleweight, and he took on Michael Soro, or as Westerners, Michelle. Us Westerners it's Michael. So Michael Soro. But yeah, Michelle and and it ended in, of course, an actual headbutt stopped the fight. So it hadn't gone 4 rounds, and it ended up being I guess it's going to end up being a technical decision. And no one wins, so the belt stays in the hands of Madrimov or whatever it may be. But yeah, we didn't get to see much. It looked like Madrimov was being a bit more aggressive, and he seemed to be up at that particular time. But of course, they didn't really get much in, so that makes it interesting. I said belt, but I guess there's no belt actually. Soro doesn't have anything, or didn't have anything, unless it's some international belt or whatever. But
I don't think there was
disappointing.
Any belt. I didn't see any belt at stake there.
Okay. Cool.
But Madrimov is really a force to be reckoned with, I'd say, and I can't wait to see him fight somebody even better than Soro. Soro used to be a really good fighter, I would say, but that was now some time ago, you know. Yeah, I have to say.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he had been out there for a minute, but he was one of those guys that was kind of on the cusp there of the top 10 fighters and things of that nature for the division. I don't recall any huge name, him fighting any huge name, and of course, he's probably more so on the back end of his career at this point. And Madrimov is really on the come up in some sense, so he's 8 fights in. And Madrimov is one of those crop of Uzbek fighters who they're very good, and they're there to fight. I mean, it's in their DNA, and they usually come out and bring it every time they're out there. I've seen Madrimov fight live as well, so he's the real deal, and it's good to see him. I wonder how he'll fare with some of the other guys that are considered the top guys at 160. I believe this is 160, but I do think that. I do think that or actually 154. Sorry, it's 154. So I do think that he could be in that mix. But it'll be interesting. There are probably some pretty solid fights out there because 154 still has a number of decent fighters. I'd like to see him with a guy like the guy out of Tony Harrison, guy out of Detroit, someone like him. See how Madrimov handles a fighter like that. You know.
What's his name?
Tony the Tiger Harrison. He's the one that beat Jermell Charlo.
Yeah, I thought you said the guy who beat Tony Harrison.
Oh no.
Yeah. Tony Harrison would be a pretty good opponent. Yeah, for Madrimov, I think so. Maybe now I don't know how much he's got left, you know, in the tank, but
I like the way not too long ago. He fought, I think, early this year.
I like the way he beat. I mean, you're right. He did beat Charlo in that first fight. Even though it was very close, but he fought a very smart fight, you know, counter punching. Yeah. So that's how he won, of course.
Yeah, he did. He did. And I know he fought recently. I think it was this year. So he's still out there. I forget who he beat, but he is still out there. There's a potential. Madrimov looks the part, you know. And I think that if an opportunity presents itself, he seems like the type that he'll jump on it.
Madrimov, definitely, because you know. As I said before, that's why they are out. I mean, why they are there in the first place, these guys. If they don't get the right fights in time, you know, it's not good. I mean, they have to go back home and, you know, quit boxing.
You know, I'm looking at the ring ratings, and they have Madrimov ranked number 8. So in front of him, you have Liam Smith. That would be a good one. Yeah. That would be an interesting one for sure.
I love that fight. Yeah.
Maybe that's one that they can pursue, and I think that one would be easier to make because I think both of them have dealings with Matchroom. So that might be the more easier one. Then Kurbanov, who I feel like he fought recently, or he's going to fight. He's a Russian fighter. Then, of course, you have Erickson Lubin, number 5, and Tony Harrison. They have him ranked 4th. So the top 3 are Castano, Sebastian Fendora, and Tim Zhu. And we know that Charlo and Tim Zhu, I guess, are going to be fighting here shortly.
Yeah. I think he wants to fight Fedora, just too much height disadvantage.
And a whole lot of punches that will be coming his way as well.
Punching machine.
That'd be certainly interesting. But I think, even more so, I think, Harrison or Liam Smith. But I think now that I see this listing, I think that Liam Smith might be the more ideal one for him to get that next sort of name and step up fight for him. And Liam Smith has been in there with the likes of Canelo, and so he'll get a taste of that sort of top level. And we'll see how he handles the occasion, but that might be a fight that can be made right there.
Yeah, Liam Smith has been doing well in his last 2 fights, anyway, you know, and he stopped Jesse Vargas now in April. So now he also, therefore, he qualifies to put his way for a bigger fight now. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Hey, he has looked good. I counted him out. I counted him out against Anthony Fowler. He handled that with ease, and
yeah,
he really pretty much won a majority of the rounds with Jesse Vargas. You may be able to
yeah,
argue a couple of rounds for Vargas, but Liam pretty much was handling him. So yeah, Smith seems to he seems to be on his game, have that resurgence, and I think he's a real
yeah.
player there at 154. So.
And he lost to Curbano before that, Leo Smith, the guy that you just mentioned.
Okay.
I just Magomed, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Magomed Banov.
he's actually fighting next, or he just a second. It says
Yeah, I
he
was thinking
fought
he just
last
fought.
night, but yeah, the
Okay, yeah,
results.
he did. Not Glover, but Patrick Teixeira.
Patrick, yeah. But
Yeah, it
you
looks like
can't
the one that
see
he
the,
did.
can't get the results because it was in Russia. So who knows?
Yeah.
What
Yeah, I
happened.
had saw someone post about that on Facebook, but I couldn't tell the posting, the flyer and everything was in Russia. So it looks like Teixeira traveled there to actually do the fight. But yeah, he won a 10-round decision over Teixeira, who was pretty
All right.
solid 154 pounder. So decent win.
Yeah. Yeah, see, he's got a few names that I recognize among his other conquests. So, Mikhailenko and Diego Chavez. Yeah, so there are a few. Charles Maniucci, I know him too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, then Ray Beltran fought someone as well.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know he was. I didn't know he was. Yeah, someone by the name of Francis, who I don't think I've seen. But I was so Cesar Francis. But yeah, I was surprised when I saw Beltran's name on the billing. I saw it like a week or two ago. I was pretty surprised, but hey, I guess he's still trying to get it.
He was like fighting. I don't know when he turned pro, like 2000 something like that. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe even before.
Yeah, interesting stuff, without a doubt. Interesting stuff. So another one that came up in the mix here is we can jump to the Showtime card because it was a pretty solid card as well. Headlined by Magnifico Magsayo taking on Rey Vargas. So Magsayo, the Filipino, being WBC champion, who actually lifted his belt from Gary Russell a few months back, and he was coming in for his first title defense. Rey Vargas, one of those guys who's been out there for a while. His name had some buzz, and I feel like I hadn't seen him in a good minute, or at least on anything major. So when this fight was announced, I was like, oh, okay, you know what? It'll be interesting. I want to see how Rey Vargas actually looks. And this turned out to be a pretty good fight. It was a good style matchup, just overall, because Rey Vargas is one of those long fighters who isn't scared to mix it up. And Magsayo, he puts a ton into his punches, and I thought that he found some pretty decent success through that process. And both had their moments, but I just felt Rey Vargas probably did a little bit more for my liking just overall. So I was scoring it, and I scored it via Fight Night score, so I'm going to jump on with next. But I had it 116, 111, just so happened to end up being 111. I felt like Magsayo had some very good punches that he was throwing, some big ones, but they were a little bit too far and in between. He was really kind of just looking for that one shot the majority of the time. While Rey Vargas, he was stepping in and putting together some combinations at times, and he had some moments where he landed some pretty solid stuff on Magsayo. But I favored Rey Vargas, the work that he was doing. I know you probably checked out those highlights as well. So what did you think of that fight just overall?
I unfortunately didn't get to watch the whole fight because there were just the highlights from round 9. When Magasayo scored a knockdown in that round, and maybe there was just a round or something before that. But anyway, in those rounds that I did see, it looked like. Yeah, of course, Rey Vargas was. I mean, in the fight, but I thought in those rounds it looked like Magsayo was the main aggressor in the
Yeah.
rounds 9, 10, 11, probably 12. Yeah. So I don't know really. I cannot say who really I thought should have won, but I thought that the height of Vargas might have caused some problems, or would
Yeah.
cause problems for Marseille, who I don't think he ever fought anybody that tall, So it's at featherweight, so it's not usual that somebody is like 5'11" almost.
Yeah, I don't think he had fought anyone that height. Yeah, Vargas is a lanky fighter, and I thought
Yeah,
that Vargas used his size fairly well in the contest, and he had some success. But Magsayo, as mentioned, he was throwing some pretty heavy shots, and he actually dropped Rey Vargas with a very
yeah.
good shot. I can't remember if it was the left or right, but it was a very solid and nice shot, and
Well,
he put a lot into it.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It was at the tail end of a combination or something of that nature. And Vargas, I will say that for the stuff that Vargas got caught with, he was taking some of it pretty well for a guy coming up in weight. But yeah,
yeah,
Magsayo, he was able to drop him. But I do think that the thing with Magsayo, he didn't use a lot of jabs, so he found
yeah,
himself at too many points. He found himself just essentially trying to land one of those overhand rights or some kind of big hook or something. And I
yeah,
think that if he would have probably put more of his punches together, then he might have had a bit more success. But yeah,
yeah.
continue to share your thoughts. I got to step away for 1 second, and I'll be right back.
Mhm.
1 second.
Yeah, all right. Shall I talk now? Yeah, so this was rather unfortunate for Magasayo because he won a world title just before this fight. Yeah, that's right. What else is new?
All right, back. Hopefully, didn't miss too
Yeah,
much.
no.
Sorry, folks. We're still in the mix.
I was just saying that it was unfortunate that Magasayo lost because he had just won that WBC title earlier
Yeah,
this year from
yeah,
Gary
that's
Allen Russell Jr. Wow,
yeah, yeah. That's one of those cases. I mean, you get to enjoy the glory for one fight, and then you lose it. So yeah,
yeah,
definitely unfortunate on his part. I guess he was the only Filipino champion that was out there now. As a matter of fact, I think they mentioned that in the broadcast that he no longer has the belt. So I think that the Filipino is pretty empty as far as world titles right now. And they've always
yeah,
had some pretty solid fighters just in all eras. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now in terms of whether those two end up fighting again. But I know that Rey Vargas, he seemed to be intent on moving forward. He said he wants to do a unification fight. He also threw out the name Leo Santa Cruz. And I don't know why. Well, I guess he's got a name, but
because he is beatable now. I think that's
yeah.
that's the main reason he knows that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he did call out Leo Santa Cruz, so it'll be interesting to see if they actually pursue that. Of course, Leo, he I believe his last fight was against Tank, right? When he got knocked out, right?
Yeah, that's right. He was probably
Leo Santa Cruz, and I know he was going up in weight in that fight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So this would be at 126. So yeah, Leo, he actually fought. Wow, that Tank Davis fight was in 2020. It seemed like it was last year.
Oh yeah,
it was in 2020 though. So he beat someone by the name of Keenan Carbajal. This was back in February of this year. So I guess he's still fairly fresh. So yeah, he's operating at featherweight right now, and I think it'll make for some interesting things. But Rey Vargas, yeah, you got to give him a bump up. He looked pretty good. Then, of course, the other guys that are out there are Emmanuel Navarrete. That's his name that was thrown out. I think that would be an excellent one right there.
Yeah.
I always like to see Navarrete in the ring. And then you have guys like, Gary Allen Russell. So this is the younger Russell brother, and he's actually. Oh no! This is actually Gary Russell. Yeah, Gary Russell Jr.
Yeah.
I was thinking of a different way. So yeah, Gary Russell is still out there. Of course, the younger Russell brother is about to be fighting here soon. He's fighting a pretty solid name.
Gary Antonio, was it?
Yeah. He's going to be fighting a pretty solid name. I can't remember who. And it's Gary. I think it's Gary Antoine Russell actually.
Antoine,
the younger one. Yes, he's fighting a pretty solid name here soon. I had to look up who it is, but Rancis Barthélemy. He's going to be fighting Rancis Barthélemy coming up. So that should be interesting.
He's past this, bro. He's definitely past his best by now. I would say he was a very good fighter, but that was a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he was solid. Yeah. I was never a huge fan of his style and everything, but he's pretty solid.
Yeah.
He could lay a few stinkers, of course.
Yeah, I mean, but he turned out to be the best of his brothers. That's the youngest brother. He turned out to be a disappointment, a hype.
Yeah, Ludwan,
Ledwan, something like that.
Ledwan. Yeah, I hadn't seen him in a while, but I remember when he was undefeated, kind of just coming up.
Like, here comes the next, champion. And then
doesn't always quite work out like that, right?
No. Maybe he didn't have, the mindset. I don't know what was the problem. But yeah, he's had a few losses. I don't know how many.
Yeah, without a doubt. So that's who's out there. Then of course you have another fighter who fought on that card, who's at 126 or operating there, which is Brandon Figueroa. Brandon Figueroa, he fought last night and he defeated who was he fighting? Castro. Carlos Castro, I believe it is.
Yeah, Carlos.
Yeah, and you know what? It was a pretty exciting fight for as long as it lasted there. Figueroa, man, he despite him being a longer, sort of taller, lengthy fighter, his real bread and butter is him just getting in there in exchanges, man. He's relentless in those exchanges. He doesn't use his size like that. He's a true fighter in that sense that he wants to get in there and bang. And he did that with Castro, who's coming in undefeated. I've seen Castro fight a number of times, and he's a pretty solid fighter. He had a good mix of some of everything, decent power, decent speed, and all that stuff. But this was without a doubt sort of a step-up fight for him in some sense, because Figueroa has been in there with the likes of Stephen Fulton, Luis Neri, and all that. But Figueroa actually was breaking him down. He actually dropped him, and at one point, it looked like he was about to get him out in about the third round or something like that. And Castro was able to survive, and as the time went on, Figueroa, he just kept pressing, and he eventually got him out of there. The referee actually jumped in to stop it. Now, the broadcast, they were saying that it was too early. There wasn't really any objection from Castro's side. I think it was going to happen at some point, and the referee stepped in there because there were some unanswered shots or whatever. And I don't think he got to the point where, he was like falling over or anything, but he was just taking some unanswered shots. And I guess that accumulation, the ref saw it. It was like, you know what? No need in letting this go any further. So there's a bit of controversy in that sense, but I think that Brandon Figueroa is the real deal. I actually like him better than Omar, who looked pretty good when he was coming up as well. But Brandon Figueroa, he's the Heartbreak Kid or the Heartbreaker, whatever his name is. He's legit.
Yeah, that prediction of mine went right home. You know how do you call it? Went straight home because I did. You can see it in my prediction video on YouTube. I said
Okay.
I said that Figueroa would win by a stoppage in the 6th, 7th, or the 8th round. So
Oh yeah,
that's
that's
it
good.
turned out to be the first of those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he throws nonstop punches. Now Stephen Fulton, when they fought Stephen Fulton, he employed the right game plan to be able to stop him. But of course, even with the likes of Fulton, in fighting Brandon Figueroa, you have to be poised and on guard the entire time because throughout the fight he's going to try to pull you into a firefight. And Fulton was able to keep him at bay. I think Fulton is a very solid fighter. This was at
Yeah.
122, I believe it is. So, but now I think that it looks like he's going to be operating there. And I tell you what, actually, a fight that I think would be low key one of those amazing type fights is Brandon Figueroa versus Emmanuel Navarrete, because they're both two guys who throw a lot of punches. They'll throw them from any angle. They're come for all action type fighters. So I think that's one of the most intriguing matchups in the sport of boxing. And that's one I would definitely like to see. I'd pay to see. So hopefully we get something like that.
Yeah, I would also. I agree. I don't know how long Navarrete has been at 126 now, but yeah, I see now it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, he came up probably about 4 fights ago or something of that nature.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he's a pretty amazing fighter. I do agree.
yeah, he is. But he was
Just
fighting pretty. He was fighting pretty often. But this is a pretty lengthy layoff here, so he's scheduled to fight. So he fought in October of last year, but he's scheduled to fight Eduardo Baez, who was one of the
yeah,
Baez brothers, and they're like scrappy fighters who I think will get in there in exchange or whatever. Both of the Baez brothers, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, these are the two. They're both pretty solid. So this looks like a good comeback fight for him, I guess, from a long layoff. And Baez is going to be there. He's going to be there exchanging. He's the type that is going to come in there ready, looking to get a win. And it'll be interesting to see how Navarrete looks. But Navarrete was fairly active. He was a super active fighter, especially through 2020. When we had the little bubble situations and all that stuff. But yeah, this has been a little layoff with him. But his last fight, he beat Joet Gonzalez, who was going to be fighting someone as well, Isaac Dogbe, I believe it is, coming up. Yeah. So, but yeah, that'll be interesting.
it doesn't seem that Navarrete's power is the same at 126, as it was at 122. So that's what I have noticed. Yeah, but still.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Certainly, there at the top level, and he's more so the accumulation of punches type.
Yeah,
he had that raw, just like he didn't have raw one punch power, but he does have the accumulation of powers. But yeah, I think you're right. So he did stop Christopher Beautiful Diaz, the Puerto Rican fighter. This was back in 2021 in April.
In 12 rounds, yeah.
And Joet Gonzalez, he went the distance, and I think Joet he's a decent fighter. He's a solid fighter. He's just right there on that cusp. I think they have him ranked number 10 there in the ring. But he was outboxed by Shakir Stevenson, and someone else beat him not too long ago. Oh, well, Navarrete, actually. So Gonzalez, he keeps his name out there. I think he stays in the mix. But yeah, it should be interesting. But yeah, Figueroa, Navarrete, that's a mouth-watering fight for fight fans, I'm telling you. And that needs to be in a venue where they appreciate just that nonstop sustained actions, because I see it being that type of fight for real.
Yeah. A dog fight.
A dog fight. It needs to be at the Forum or something in California. I think they changed the name or whatever, but it needs to be there. It needs to be in some small room where you're packed in and you know that, hey, we're about to have a scrap here. So hopefully we get something like that.
Yeah,
that would be very interesting.
Those guys don't dance around and play.
No, none of that. They're going to be going in. Also on this Showtime card, there's a guy by the name of Frank Martin, who I don't know if I had seen him. There's some other Martins that have been out there. But of course, I saw this fight, and he was taking on Jackson Marinez, who I have seen on at least 3 occasions. Jackson Marinez is the guy who first lost to Rolly Romero in a fight that many, myself included, felt that Jackson Marinez actually deserved the win in. But of course, all the odds were stacked against him. He was kind of the fighter coming over B side, and this was just an opportunity for him. And it was promoted by the promoters of Ramirez. So Marinez essentially beat him. He outboxed him, and he didn't get the nod. But Marinez, he got some bigger fights from there, or he got a bigger fight from there. He took on Richard Comey. Richard Comey stopped him. And now in this fight with Martin, he was stopped in the 10th round in what was a pretty solid matchup just from an overall standpoint. And Marinez, he was actually bringing it. He wasn't backing down, and he was doing some good boxing there, even up to the point where he actually got stopped. So in the 9th round, he got caught and dropped, I believe it was, but he was able to get back to his corner because the bell had rang. And then when he came back out, he still wasn't fully there. And Martin, he did what he had to do. He stepped in there and got him out of there. Now, I don't know if you've seen the highlights or anything of that nature, but it's worth checking out. This guy, Frank Martin, he looks to be pretty good. He's actually promoted by Errol Spence. So he's a part of Man Down Promotions. So that's Errol Spence's thing. And Spence was there last night. And Martin, I thought that he looked very good, especially early on. In the middle rounds, he stopped throwing as much. He probably could have got Marinez out of there a little bit sooner if he'd have been throwing a bit more there in the middle rounds. But as far as just his overall pedigree, Frank Martin looks very good, and he has a great tool set, and his reflexes are pretty on point. So he had some moments there where he was ducking and dodging some of those shots where you can just tell he's definitely light on his feet, and he can jump in and out with no problem. So he's definitely someone to look out for. And I know they mentioned that the name that came up was Rolly Romero. So I think that would be an excellent fight between the two of them as far as if we could get something like that. He's definitely worth checking out. And I think he would definitely give Romero a run for his money, maybe beat Romero, because Martin, he looks pretty solid.
Yeah, he sure looks solid to me, just looking at his record and all that. Mm-hmm. He does have power, obviously, and yeah.
And he has a good jab. His jab is pretty solid. He uses it.
Yeah. He's of the right kind of height for that division, the best, 5'8" for lightweights. It's a good one. It's not good. Sometimes it's not good to be too tall either for your division, sometimes.
Yeah.
And not too short either. So, but just want to mention that I found out earlier that there is a really good fight in August, and also at 135. It's going to be Richard Comey versus Jose Pedraza, actually.
Oh, that fight's happening?
Yeah, on the 27th of August.
Oh, wow. 27th. I did see that Richard Comey was training. I follow him on Instagram, I believe. But he always is training, seemingly. But yeah, I didn't know about this. Jose Pedraza, snipers. So that's a pretty good fight. I like what Pedraza brings to the table, and of course, I like what Comey brings to the table. And I think it's going to be an interesting style clash because Comey is one of those explosive power punchers or boxer punchers, and then Pedraza, he's one of these slick, crafty boxers who, and both of them have been in with the best of the division. So I think this is probably the right fight at the right time for the two, and fairly even matchup. I say it's kind of 50-50 for the most part.
I think it's a really good style matchup, I would say, stylistically, because as you said, Comey is more of a puncher and Pedraza more of a boxer, So
yeah. So that does make it pretty interesting style-wise. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah, I didn't know they were taking on. So it's August 27th. So that's good. And this is gonna be at super lightweight, so 140. So 140 pounds. So okay, yeah. So yeah, that makes sense.
140. All right.
Yeah. And it looks like Jared Anderson. I just clicked on the card. It's going to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at the Hard Rock there. And Jared Anderson, the heavyweight, the American heavyweight, coming up. He's going to be on the card. It looks like taking on a guy from, where is this guy from?
Mr. Anderson.
Serbia. Mijan Rovkanin. Or Rufkin.
Oh, yeah, Milan. Yeah, that's right. Milan Rovchan. That's right. I know him.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen him.
Yeah, he's not really been out there with any of the top guys. I think no. Until now.
No. Yeah, I don't see any name note that I can recall off top on his resume. But I see that he is 24-2, 16 knockouts.
Yeah,
28 years old, so
yeah. He was born in Montenegro, actually. Well, he fights for Serbia. And he was stopped. Right. The only guy that is kind of known that he fought was Agit Kabayel, and he was stopped in 3 rounds.
Oh, okay.
Who I'm also kind of curious about because I haven't seen him, in anything kind
German.
of. Yeah.
Have I seen him? I don't know if I've seen him. Oh, so he beat Kevin Johnson last year, who I'm surprised is still fighting.
Doesn't seem like he's got that good promoter because.
And he's got a win over Derek Chisora.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does.
Oh, as a matter of fact, he's Oh yeah. So right, yeah.
I think he's like a Kurd from Turkey or something originally.
Yeah, interesting.
Kurdish. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall him off top. So yeah, that is pretty interesting. He has fought this year. Back in May actually. It looks like it was in Germany, so it probably wasn't like a card that was broadcast on anything major, but interesting. Yeah, that should be fairly interesting. Pretty cool. Not bad. But yeah, we'll see what's in store then. But yeah, it was good stuff, I guess, in total. I mean, yeah, those were the major fights there. Of course, I haven't caught the Beltran and Francis fight, and I did not catch the Kurbanov fight, so we'll see what I'll try to catch some of those, at least the highlights or something at some point. But yeah, it was a pretty good card last night. We had some pretty.
Oh yeah, and I just forgot. I watched that fight. Well, I wouldn't call it a fight. Well, Fabio Wardley, he fought a weak opponent. Guy.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It looks like he should be like the donut eating champion or something. I think it's really. I'm quite angry that they still they give him such opponents now after he's proven himself. That he's wasted guys like Molina and the guy Lartey.
Richard Lartey. Well, apparently they were saying that, or at least he was saying this guy apparently was a 24-hour notice guy. So I don't know what happened. Maybe somebody else pulled out or whatever, but he was coming in on 24 hours notice, which, of course, that always spells that, is probably not going to go well for you. But
yeah, I think
he's just someone they threw in there just to keep Wardley out there. So yeah, Wardley, but a good thing you brought him up. Yeah, I thought he, of course, looked good because he was supposed to look good against that guy. But I will say that after the fight, they were talking about who he could potentially face next. Who was the name that they threw out there? They threw out a name. Nathan Gorman. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
You remember him? Yeah. He's considered to be like one of those sort of the next heavyweights of the UK there, along with Daniel Dubois. And
very overrated, very.
Yeah. I remember coming into that fight with Dubois. Yeah, there were a number of people who thought Gorman was going to win it. I liked what I had seen from Dubois. Gorman is solid, but of course,
He
that
got
sort
no
of hype has slowed down a
defense.
bit.
Yeah, he got no defense because Dubois kept hitting him, and Will almost, every time he really went for it, he kind of nailed him, So that shows this guy has no defense. He's just a big guy who likes to, slug it out, and that's it.
Yeah. So that's who they want. Or Eddie Hearn was mentioning as a potential next opponent for Wardley, and I think that's a pretty good matchup right there. A good step up for him in terms of where he is now, trajectory wise. And if he can beat Gorman, I think that bodes well for him as far as what he can potentially do in the division. So that's a good one I'm looking forward to, because he's a big, solid guy. He seems to have decent skill, and he looks to be athletic. So it'll be interesting to see how far he can go.
I like the fact that he's not that muscular. I like that.
Yeah.
It makes him like faster, more agile, and all that. Better stamina. I hope anyway he's got good enough stamina, because when he faces the better guys, he will not be able to just knock them out in 2 rounds or something. So
yeah, he didn't take any damage in this fight, so from the looks of things, he can probably get back in there pretty soon. Besides the standard little suspension, maybe he has to wait 30 days, or maybe not even that. But yeah, he looks good, so he can be back in there.
Yeah, he's 14-0 now, and 27 years of age, so he's still got time. He's got time.
Oh yeah, and Nathan Gorman actually fought on the 17th of June, so that means that they can pretty much line up. It seems that things they should line up fairly well, considering such, right?
Isn't he the cousin of Tyson Fury? I believe he is, actually.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Like a traveler, or however they call him.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got decent size. He's 6'4.5". Yeah, I haven't seen Gorman since that Richard Lardy fight.
Bad shape, that's all.
Yeah. So I last saw him in 2020 when he fought Richard Lardy, but he's had 2 fights since then, 2 KOs against.
He didn't even knock the Lardy out. So that speaks about his abilities, I guess.
Yeah, Lardy. Yeah, he has been dropped before. That was his sort of bounce back fight from the Dubois loss.
Dubois.
Yeah.
Dubois.
Yeah, but everyone else who's beaten Lardy has stopped him or made him quit on his stool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he did go the distance with Nathan Gorman. But after Gorman, he got knocked out by Wardley. Of course, I remember seeing that. Sergey Kuzmin also knocked him out.
Yeah.
That's a good. Hey, that's a potential opponent there. He had some high regards. Sergey Kuzmin. Yeah, that would be an interesting fight for Wardley.
Kuzmin he's not so. He's 6'4". All right. I thought he was shorter, actually. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He's pretty solid. Yeah, he only lost to Michael Hunter and Martin Bakuli, so on points, so both guys, are really good, of course.
Yeah, so that seems like an interesting one right there. If that's one that could happen, and he just beat Richard Lardy, so that makes it pretty interesting. So yeah, maybe we get to see that at some point, or see him in the mix there.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt really.
Yeah, and I do want to see. I think we may have talked about it last week. I want to see Joe Joyce against Daniel Dubois again. Dubois. I just feel like that's the fight that needs to actually happen because of the fact that they have some history there, and somehow Dubois has been able to get a belt before Joyce. It's crazy. Shout out Hypey. Big ups. What's up, Hypey? Appreciate you dropping in, my man.
Yeah, better late than never.
Alan. Hey, Alan, welcome, man. Thank you for dropping in. He says, "What's your opinion on Joyce?" Um, yeah, what's your
My
opinion on Joyce, Boz? I'll let you share your thoughts.
my opinion is just that he's solid. He's not really completely elite level. No, I don't think so. But because he's so big and he's got that chin of his, he hasn't really been exposed yet. I mean, he hasn't been beaten yet, anyway. But he's been exposed as easy to hit, So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Alan says a lot of people say he isn't that good. Well, yeah, he's a solid boxer. He had, the basic fundamentals. Of course, he's solid with that. He had a
yeah.
pretty solid amateur career as well. But
He's more passive
yeah,
fighter, I would say.
yeah. But he's not one of those guys that is gonna blow you away with anything. Even in the win over Dubois, for instance, it was really behind the jab. So he's actually more athletic than he seems, just based on how he does those little jumping flip kicks or whatever you call those things when he does every now and then after he gets a win. But he is a sizable guy, not much on the speed side, but his power seems to be fairly legit. At least he's got some pretty decent power that at least can do some form of damage. I think that Joyce, he's I want to say what, 36, maybe 37 now. He's just one of those guys who started late as far as when he turned pro, so that's going to sort of certainly change how you shoot up the rankings, or you have to take more of a fast track approach towards it. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure I'm not sure he would fare very well at the very top of the division, as far as like Tyson Fury, Usyk. Usyk has already beat him in the World Series of boxing. So
yeah.
against
I don't
him,
think
Deontay
but
Wilder, it'll be interesting to see how he takes a punch from him. I think that's very intriguing. But Joyce, he's not the worst fighter, but also he hasn't really done a ton to really stand out and make you think that, okay, yeah, he's a legitimate threat to the titles for anyone.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Alan says, I never used to rate him, but I think he has the best chin in boxing history. Yeah, he has a solid chin for sure. He certainly has a solid chin. And I think in this last fight, when he was taking on whoever it was he just beat last week, he was kind of just going in with no regard, because he probably didn't really care about the power coming back. Yeah, Christian Hammer. So Christian Hammer couldn't really hit him with anything that hurt him. So he's just coming in with no regard in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta pace yourself against him. That's the mistake that Dubois also made. He just went all out too soon, And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Dubois. Yeah, he was trying to fast track. I remember when I had saw him. Yeah, he's just a little too quick as far as jumping in the mix with the tops of the division.
all right. Yeah, Alan Dubois threw everything at him. Yeah, that's right. Joyce just took everything he threw at him, and
Yeah,
that's why.
yeah, his
Dubois
chin is certainly solid. Certainly has a solid chin. I want to see
won.
how it holds up against some other guys. Yeah, Wilder's a good shot. Surely he can't take a Wilder bomb on the chin too often. Yeah, I'd imagine. Yeah, Wilder could definitely touch him up. We can see how tough that chin really is there. But yeah, we were talking a little bit earlier in terms of where Wilder is, if he's coming back, and when that would be if he does come back. Because I feel like that's still up in the air, but
It's a
it
mystery.
is what it is. Alan, the commentator said his bone mass is abnormal 5 times the average man. Hey, when you're a juggernaut, I guess that's the case.
Yeah, he isn't called the juggernaut for nothing.
Alan Chisora is calling him out.
That would be a fun fight.
Yeah, I do think it'll be a fun. I do think it'll be a fun fight. Yeah, I know Chisora. He'll step in there with anyone. I actually would favor Joyce in that fight. But that being said, Chisora would definitely bring it to him.
You like do this.
He'll
Try
certainly bring it to him.
to hit him. He's too short, simply, and won't be able to really hit.
Oh yeah,
Joyce.
calling out Wilder. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. We were talking about that earlier. I thought you were mentioning calling out Joyce at first, but yeah, Chisora is calling out Wilder. Yeah, we don't. I don't think that would fare too well for him, but it'll be fun for as long as it lasted. And I think that the actual press conferences and all that stuff would be pretty entertaining between the two. It seems like it would, because I can see Chisora trying to get under Wilder's skin, so that would make it very interesting.
But nothing beats, Fury calling him a big dosser. So.
Alan says he thinks Chisora beat Usyk, and I get a lot of shit for saying that.
Usyk,
I didn't think he. I thought he lost, but I guess you could argue that the fight was fairly close. But I just thought that Chisora didn't do enough in that fight with Usyk.
First 4 rounds that he did something. Maybe he won 3 rounds. I don't know if I gave him that many, but maybe I don't know.
I didn't give him a ton. I feel like he was just short in terms of he didn't really have enough activity for my liking in that fight with Usyk. But I thought it was a good fight for Usyk to get at that sort of initial feel for the heavyweight division. So Usyk went about it right for sure. Alan says I favor the heavy punchers more. Yeah. Understandably.
When you are at heavyweight, you don't want to see somebody who's like that kind of pity pat puncher, how they call it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see some real knockouts. You don't want to see a boxing, a chess match. Yeah, that's right. You don't want to see that at heavyweight. Maybe at middleweight you do, but
yeah, without a doubt. And Usyk, he isn't a big puncher, but he does go for it. I will give him that in terms of how Usyk is. He's the type that he doesn't back down. He'll go for it. But Alan says Usyk learned. Yeah, indeed. So Usyk, but I think Usyk has gone about it the right way as far as those guys who make the choice to move up in weight, especially if you're moving up from cruiserweight or light heavyweight to heavyweight. I think Usyk went about it the right way in terms of how the time frame in which he got to the point where he was comfortable at the weight and his body adjusted to the weight. And I feel like he's really on his game right now as far as just his overall package there at heavyweight. So it's going to be interesting. I do favor him to beat Joshua in this return bout that they're going to have. But hopefully Joshua makes it interesting, because I said in the first fight that if Joshua is an aggressive fighter, then he should be able to, really give Usyk some problems. But
here I got a message that explains what happened with the Wardley's opponent. He couldn't get in the country, it says. So the guy he fought, he jumped in with 24-hour notice. So that's
Fabio Wardley. So the guy was denied a visa or whatever it may be.
Yeah, probably.
That tends to happen.
Yeah. Now that Corona is once again, a factor, becoming a factor. Sadly.
Oh yeah. So, it's stuff out there. Like I said, I was sick. It had me out for damn near 2 weeks. But it wasn't COVID. Like I got tested and I didn't have COVID, so they were saying it was like some normal or common thing.
Flu, just the boring old flu.
Maybe something of that nature. But it ended up being. I feel good now. I finally feel good, but it took me like 2 weeks.
Feel good.
You interesting.
Can see it now. I feel good.
I feel good. But it's interesting. But I think that's a good bit of the stuff that we
are jumped
into. So for those here, next I'm going to be hopping over to the Fight Night Scores YouTube page to watch and score the Pacquiao Horn fight, which took place in 2016. It'll be interesting. I haven't seen it since that particular time. And at the time, I felt that Pacquiao deserved to win in that fight, and I thought that Horn winning was, if not a robbery, was just a bad decision from the judges. But this will be a chance to get a fresh look at it and kind of see how it really turned out. Now that we're a number of years removed from it, and I can get a better understanding of what it was really like there down under when Pacquiao was there to take on the magnificent Jeff Horn.
That one was a surprise. It was like, all right, when I saw that, now, man, he should really retire. He's finished. Then 2 years later, he beats Thurman, so that shows it. Never
crazy.
Can tell. Yeah.
Crazy how the sport of boxing is there. Crazy. Alan says, do you think Fury will stay retired? Yeah, I don't think he will. I think that the right price comes, he's going to be back out there. I think he's throwing a lot of stuff out there right now. Yeah, and then I know there are situations with that whole ETK Global and his connection with that one guy. So some have, I've read that he potentially just said he's retired just to disconnect himself from that person, because I think he was denied a visa, or at least denied entry into the U.S., or at least I know that's happening with Tommy Fury, and it has something to do with that as well. So maybe that is the reason behind Fury saying he's retired, but I don't think it's I think it'll be a short-lived retirement, because I know that something is going to lure him back out there. Yeah. If he's about legacy, then he can't just walk away without taking on Usyk.
Yeah, I don't think he will stay retired. I doubt it's really, he does have a few, at least that guy to beat before he can really, call himself the best,
Yeah, he's going to have to become undisputed. When that opportunity presents itself, then he needs to do that for sure. And I think that will bode well for his legacy overall. Richard Sanchez, you guys are a hidden gem. Love the work you do. Hey, Richard. Hey, appreciate you dropping in. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate you dropping in and checking us out for sure. Alan, like Convoso's out of nowhere. Yeah, that was pretty much the way it was for Jeff Horn, out of nowhere. And that Pacquiao fight sent him to stardom. And
it didn't really last so long.
it didn't last too long, because he eventually had to run into some pretty tough guys, for sure. Terrence Crawford being one of them.
Never should have fought Crawford for one.
Yeah, that ended the gravy train right there pretty quick. That was going to be a tough one.
Like he had done with so many others also.
Scrapbook Boxing, what's up? 86 Boxing and co-host. Shout out to Scrapbook Boxing. Hey, appreciate you dropping in, Scrapbook. Appreciate you dropping in. If you're into the history of the sport, check out Scrapbook Boxing. I mean, his page is definitely a hidden gem right there in terms of he's been around the sport for a long time, around the participants, been to a number of fights, and he's collected a number of these numbers of pieces of memorabilia, all that good stuff. So Scrapbook Boxing, go check out his page without a doubt. You will certainly learn some things. I've learned some things checking out his page. Shout out Scrapbook. Appreciate you dropping in, my friend. Alan, stop Tommy Fury fight. That kind of got derailed. I was actually looking forward to Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul, because I think it's an even matchup, because neither of them have really fought anyone who was actual solid boxer, or actual. And in Fury's case, some of those guys weren't even or not Fury, but in Paul's case, some of those guys weren't even boxers. But I do think that Tommy Fury's resume wasn't that far off from what Jake Paul's is in all actuality. He's going to be taking on Hakeem Rothman Jr. next, and this should be interesting. I thought I heard or read somewhere that they sparred before, so maybe that's why Jake Paul is feeling somewhat confident to it. And I know Rothman Jr. was knocked out in his last fight in what was a step up in his resume as well.
Yeah.
It's not really any major names or anything on there as well. So that should be interesting.
Mike Tyson said I was at of Jake Paul. He did beat some guy that he shouldn't have beaten, So that's why he thinks it would make sense to fight him or Tyson.
Yeah, that is
Yeah, he's got the punch. If nothing, Jake Paul definitely has got the power, So he's proven that,
Yeah, he yeah. You know what? Hey, I will say this. I think that he is taking it serious in terms of his training and stuff when he's going into these fights, because I don't think he would have been able to do what he's done if he wasn't really putting in any true work. You know what I'm saying? So he's actually, I believe he's actually putting in some legit true work in terms of getting himself ready for these fights. And I think that is bode well for him, because if he wasn't really in there training and really learning more of the craft, then I think he would have been kind of just dropped and wiped through regardless.
I think we should be thankful to both actually Paul brothers, because they helped make boxing even more, perhaps, or make it more
pulled out a lot of pulled in a lot of casual fans. Their arguments as to whether it's good for the sport or not. I think that any publicity is good publicity. Boxing, of course, it's not like it's going to derail boxing. Boxing has died and risen from the dead a million times. If you look at all the coverage over the years, so I don't think it's going to hurt anything. If anything, it's just a boost.
So he made all those Instagrammers and Twitter folks watch boxing. That's
bring a fun atmosphere. I kind of lump it in there with the sort of exhibitions, those type things that have taken place and been a common thing in boxing. So what Jake Paul is doing is not something that is new to boxing. If you look at the history of it, there have always been these sort of novelty type acts and fights and events that have taken place, and it's just a matter of this one's playing out on a grander scale because of social media these days. But outside of that, I don't think he's hurting the sports. And at the end of the day, if you match real boxers up with the best fighting the best, then the people are going to be checking it out. I mean, we want Spence Crawford, and hopefully we're going to get that. Then the boxing fans are going to pile in to check it out, even the casual fans, because we know that's one of the top fights in the sport. So, it's all a boost. And Richard Sanchez, who does all the animation of the historic fighters. Thanks for checking it out, Richard. That'll be myself. I do all of the animations and all of that stuff, the scripts and creations, etc. Sometimes I use the term we, but it's really just myself in the background. It's just one of those things. I'm just a fan of the history of the sport. So, I had to find a little way that I can kind of tap into the learning of some of these old fighters and then putting some of their information out there. So you're looking at the culprit here. I'm going to continue. I got some pretty good stuff on the way, of course. We'll continue to dig into the history of the things. I'm shocked you guys don't have a ton of views. Very cool stuff for true boxing fans. It will come. So thanks, Richard. Definitely. Hey, we're kicking this thing off, trying to keep it consistent here. Boz and I joining in the mix, and you'll have to follow Boz's page. He does a number of predictions and things of that nature that come about. So he's definitely one to check out. Richard Sanchez will do. Scrapbook Boxing, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Hey, appreciate it, Scrapbook. As you know, definitely always learning some things from checking out your stuff for sure. Facebook, I always enjoy watching you and Bob's son. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Appreciate it, Mother. I think that's mom. So thank you for sure. Richard Sanchez, curious to hear opinion of 86 Boxing. Is Canelo chasing greatness or is he cherry picking? Hear both sides. Well, I think he's chasing greatness. I definitely think he's chasing greatness, but I think he's sort of carving the path, himself. He's he definitely yeah, he definitely did not or isn't fighting like Arthur Beterbiev as far as 175. I thought that him taking on Bivol was a calculated move. He probably thought that he would be able to break Bivol down, but it turned out he couldn't do so. So I think he's legitimately chasing greatness, but he's also sort of doing some picking, a little bit of picking and choosing at those top level fights for sure in the weights that he is, well, in a weight like 175 where it's a bit more far reaching for him. And then even at 160, but at 168, I feel like, hey, he's taking on or is in the process of taking on all of the top guys there. Of course, the fight we want to see is David Benavidez, but I think if he takes on David Benavidez and he wins that, then yeah, I mean, there's not a lot that people will be able to say about his trajectory as far as him moving up to that weight. So I think it's a mix of both. He's doing some greatness chasing, but he's also doing some calculated matchmaking in some sense. What do you think, Boz?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. As you said, he does fight a lot of the best guys, but not always, of course. It kind of depends, maybe what kind of form he is. If he is really, it seems like he fights one top guy and then he fights me, or two, and then he fights one who is not. Usually something like that. So he does some cherry picking, but not too much. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Not too much, not a ton, but yeah, he does. He definitely, like when he was gonna fight Makabu, whatever. Yeah, that was gonna be. Yeah, it was strategic. He chose the right guy, certainly. But I had to say that at 168, I felt like Caleb Smith was the real deal, and he handled Caleb Smith fairly well.
Even though it was his last fight at 168.
Yeah, and Caleb Smith, he's legit. Some people didn't know him coming into the fight. So some of the stuff I was reading online, like, oh, this is just a cherry pick or this is a bum or whatever. No, but no, Caleb Smith is a very good fighter, and he's big. He's got some size to him. He's moved up to 175 now. So I was impressed. Yeah, I was impressed with how Canelo handled Caleb Smith. If you look at everything else Caleb Smith has done, he's legit.
Yeah,
maybe the moment was a bit too big for him.
Yeah, I think that was down to the speed advantage of Canelo that he was able to dominate that fight. Because,
Alan, that's amazing. Looks like you traveled 2 times. Oh yeah. Thanks, Alan. But yeah, we're gonna continue to come with that historic stuff. Rich Sanchez, appreciate the word. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Richard. Hey, appreciate you definitely dropping in and checking us out, all that good stuff. Then how I love the answer feel is better than most experts. Yeah, but yeah, you know, it's all good stuff. But yeah, so I'm about to hop over to the Fight Night Scores channel. Then I had to go there for an actual if you look up Fight Night Scores, you can definitely check that out. We're about to watch Horn versus Pacquiao from 2016. Richard Sanchez, I love the 70s era. I like your opinion on today's versus that era. Nutrition trading, we hear so much better today about the natural strength of individuals from that era. Yeah, I think that I'm a proponent of I think that it's hard to compare the eras from an overall perspective, but I do think that some of the fighters who were great back in the day would be great here today if the circumstances changed. And the circumstances were tougher, especially when you get way back to the early days of boxing, of course, the conditions and everything. But I don't think that there's this huge jump or gap or something from some of the fighters of old. I think it's just a matter of, just circumstances. Because there are some things from the past that they probably that fighters of today, they don't go through the same type of conditions and things of that nature. Now, 70s was a good time. We had a lot of good stuff in the boxing. I think the 70s, that was a good era, especially like you're thinking about like heavyweights and other weights. Light heavyweight or heavyweights, those around that area. I think it was definitely thriving. So certainly it's legit.
Yeah,
It was legit from back then for sure.
you had plenty of strong guys back then also. Yeah.
But yeah,
But,
but as mentioned, I'm certainly one who think I don't think it's wide gap. Yeah, I think that there's nutrition things of that nature. But like I said, I do think that fighters would adapt. You know, if you were a great fighter back then, you're a great fighter now. You would be a great fighter now. Like the greats of the past would be great. You know, you have to look at them with the people they were fighting in their era, but yeah, I'm just saying, if you really dig into the records and resumes of those guys from the past, man, they were fighting the best of the best multiple times. It was different. Now we might get one good matchup like Spence Crawford. We're gonna get that. It may happen just once. Had this been back in the day, they could have fought 3, 4, 5 times. You know, it's just a different way they went about it back then, and I think that certainly makes a difference.
Yeah, I remember when Marlon Starling, he said that his time Floyd Mayweather would have been an ordinary fighter, you know. So, I mean, there is some truth to that, you know, because back then it was tougher to fight, I would say, than today, for several reasons. You know, there were, like you said, less like. I mean, they didn't know as much as they do today, these trainers, about nutrition, you know, and all that stuff, as you said.
Yeah, certainly. But yeah, we're going over to the street Fight Night Scores channel. So if you all can jump over there, we're gonna look at Pacquiao Horn, and we're gonna talk about that. Richard, so I have to communicate. Thanks, Richard. Hey, yeah, we're gonna be back in the mix. We're trying to do this weekly, so be sure to check us out. But if you search Fight Night Scores, heading over there right now. Boz, appreciate you stepping in. Of course, get this boxing chit chat going. We're gonna be back in the mix here shortly.
All right, cool.
All right, thanks everyone for attending. Shout out, definitely appreciate everyone that joined in this thing. But we'll be back for sure at some point next week. Check us out.
All right.